People ask me all the time, what is the actual secret to making money while you sleep? And I always tell them the same thing. There is no secret. There is only sanity repeated until it becomes wealth. But let's be real, nobody wants to hear that, because sanity is boring and boredom doesn't sell on social media. The modern investor has been infected with this weird delusion that passive income means downloading some sketchy app, clicking a few buttons, and watching money magically appear. But that is just a fairy tale, and magic has never existed in the history of capitalism, no matter how many YouTube gurus promise you a shortcut. I have seen the same stupidity dress itself in new clothes every single year, whether it is NFTs or automated dropshipping empires. It is always the same circus with the same fools paying. For admission, let me be brutally clear: if someone is selling you a passive income system, they are making their income from you, not from the system itself, because the people who are actually compounding wealth are too busy doing it to bother teaching a course about it. Here is what actually works, and it is so simple it might actually disappoint you. You take money you do not need immediately, and you buy ownership in businesses that produce things people actually want. Then, you sit there like a stone Buddha while time does all the heavy lifting for you. That is the whole game, but most people can't do it, not because they are stupid, but because they are human, and we are wired for action and novelty. Sitting still feels like surrender, so we tinker and trade and optimize and slowly destroy the only real advantage we ever had, which is time. Passive income is the dividend. Check that arrives whether you are awake or asleep, sick or healthy. And it is the result of enormous activity up front. You have to earn money first, which isn't passive at all, and you have to learn to spend less than you earn, which takes massive discipline. Then you have to do nothing for decades while everyone else around you is doing something flashy. When I started my journey, I wasn't looking for 100 ways to make money. I was looking for 1 or 2 ways that actually made sense, and I chose quality over quantity every single time. Take insurance or utilities, for example. They are boring, but they produce rivers of cash year after year, and that cash, when reinvested into more boring businesses, compounds into something that looks like genius but is really just basic arithmetic. The problem with most investing advice today is that it is designed to keep you busy, because busy people trade more and traders pay more fees, which makes advisors rich and clients poor. I remember someone asking me how often they should check their portfolio, and I asked them, how often do you check to see if your house is still standing? They were confused because they thought of stocks as gambling prices instead of real properties. Once you understand you own a piece of a business, the daily price becomes irrelevant noise, because the value of a business selling things to billions of people just keeps grinding forward regardless of the market mood. Own the business, ignore the price, and collect the dividends, then repeat that for 50 years. Most investors think they are too sophisticated for this, and they want algorithmic straight guys or exotic derivatives, but the market doesn't pay you for feeling smart. It pays you for being right, and being right is usually embarrassingly simple. If you cannot explain your strategy to a 12-year-old in 2 minutes, you do not have a strategy, you just have confusion wrapped in jargon. The reason adults can't execute this is emotional, not intellectual, because we need to feel productive, but an investor who does nothing for 5 years is actually winning, even if they feel like they are failing. I have seen brilliant people destroy themselves because they couldn't tolerate simplicity and they needed complications to match their self-image. They chased private equity deals and invested in startups, while the guy who just bought a simple index fund ended up with more wealth and way less stress. The real secret is that the passive part isn't about the money, it is about your ego, and you have to be passive enough to let reality work without your interference. The world changes, but human nature doesn't. And that is what people miss about passive income. It is not about predicting the future, it is about owning what survives change. If you want real passive income, stop chasing innovation and start owning consistency, because innovative companies make founders rich, but consistent companies make shareholders rich slowly and reliably. The best investments are usually in industries you find dull, because if it excites you, it probably excites everyone else. And that means the price is already too high. You want to own money-making machines. And once you see your investments as machines, you stop fidgeting with them. My only job is to not sell them. And that is passive income in its purest form, while I do something more interesting with my life. People have confused activity with progress, but in the world of investing, doing something is usually what makes you fall behind. During the big financial crashes, everyone was screaming that the world was ending, but the people who did nothing and just held their quality assets ended up richer, not because they were brilliant, but because they understood that temporary pain is the price of permanent gain. Real passive income is a behavior you adopt where you live below your means and reinvest the returns until they replace your income entirely. It won't make you rich next year, but in 30 years you will wake up wondering how you accumulated so much. What? Barely trying, and that is the magic of compounding left undisturbed by human stupidity. The world will always have new schemes and new gurus offering effortless wealth, but you have to ignore them because they are selling tickets to a show that never starts. Real wealth is boring and patient, and it is the only reliable path to independence I have ever seen work. The greatest destroyer of wealth isn't a market crash. It is the fees you pay to people who talk confidently about things they can't actually control. Fire the people who are overcomplicating your life and buy a low-cost index fund. Then never look at it again, and you will be wealthier than 90% of the people trying to be clever. The finance industry wants you to think this is complicated so they can charge you for services you don't need. But the truth is so simple it would make the entire advisory industry collapse. Real passivity means no checking, no adjusting, and no optimizing. And I have made most of my money by sitting on my ass and doing absolutely nothing. The less I did, the richer I got because I let time do the work. The reason most people never achieve financial independence isn't because they don't earn enough, but because they spend too much and keep moving the goalpost every time they get a raise. The real secret is controlling your desires, because every dollar you don't spend is a worker you can send out into the world to earn more dollars. Every unnecessary purchase is a worker you fired before they could compound. Choosing not to spend is the foundation of freedom, because the house you didn't buy or the car you didn't upgrade becomes the money that buys your time later in life. I have been called cheap and out of touch, but while others were buying status symbols, I was buying freedom, and now I can do whatever I want with whoever I want. And that is the real luxury. Wealth is mostly about what you don't do. So don't buy things you don't need and don't trade when you should hold. Avoiding stupidity is much easier than achieving brilliance, and I got rich because I avoided being an idiot for longer than most people can manage. Your money should be working while you are busy, not being stupid, and that means you have to remove yourself as the biggest risk factor in your own portfolio. If you can't pass the test of doing nothing for 5 years, then you don't have passive income, you just have a job disguised as investing. Less is always more, less trading, less complexity, and less interference. Just spend less than you earn, invest the difference, and let arithmetic compound your discipline into wealth. Doing nothing will be the most profitable thing you ever do, and you will realize that boredom compounded over decades beats excitement scattered across years every single time. Choose wisely or don't, but either way, time will teach you the lesson, and I'd rather you profit from it than regret it. Stay boring, stay patient, and let everyone else chase the noise, while you build your wealth in silence. I hope you guys found this valuable, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.